the invocation prayers beforehand, and then we can talk and discuss as we go. So like that. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning for Srimad Bhagavatam class. And again, just to acknowledge each and every one of you for your persistent dedication to being present, to hear from Bhagavatam virtually, no matter where you are, and taking time out to be part of this wonderful online community that has grown up here. And as always, recognition of Ananda Bihari Prabhu, who has so many responsibilities. And with little Ram there, but still every morning dedicatedly doing the service, and of course Adi Parush Prabhu, who's there, stitching away, making garlands, doing so many things, but just dedicated perpetually to being present for Bhagavatam class and serving the online community. So my deep appreciation and gratitude to all of you, and thank you very much for allowing me into your Sangha. So before I begin, I would like to beg for the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas that you see fit to bestow your mercy upon me so that I can speak something relevant and bona fide from the pages of this most exalted scripture, the Grantaraj, the king of books, the king of all literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam, this beautiful Bhagavatam, transmitting the message of the Godhead of Lord Shri Krishna. And we're in the 10th canto, as expressed and explained before, which is defined by our acharyas as the lotus face of the Supreme Lord. The Bhagavatam, the book Bhagavatam, non-different from Krishna himself personally, and the 10th canto representing his lotus face, starting with the first and second cantos as his lotus feet and working the way up to the point where now we're at the lotus face of the Supreme Lord. So I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully you all can see that. If Dave, can you see that? Just give me a thumbs up because I can see you on my screen. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a series of about 10 verses to read through today. And actually, this will take us to the conclusion of the 88th chapter and the pastime of the demon Vrikasura and his interactions with Lord Shiva. And today we hear also how he's interacting with Krishna in the form of a young brahmachari, brahmana. So this is very exciting, concluding yet another chapter and moving. There are 90 chapters in this 10th canto, so we'll be finished 88 and be starting 89. But as we know, the goal is not to finish the Bhagavatam. The goal is to be absorbed in each and every word that Srila Prabhupada and his disciples have painstakingly translated for us to completely absorb and consume ourselves in hearing Srila Prabhupada packed into every one of his purports and translations, full potency coming from the spiritual world to help each and every one of us become enlightened and inspired to transcend the material world and become sincere servants of Krishna. Okay, so we'll start here. We've read the invocation already. Yadina Shravanayalam Yushma Vyavasitam Vibho Banyatam Prayasa Pumbir Jitai Swartan Samihate. Word for word. Yadi, if, na, our, Shravanaya, for the learning, alam, suitable, yushmat, your, vyavasitam, intention, vibho, oh, powerful one, banyatam, please tell, prayashaha, usually, pumbihi, with persons, dritai, taken help of, swa, one's own, artan, purposes, shami hate, one accomplishes. Translation and purport. Just a short purport here. By the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada's disciples and sincere servants Ki Jai. Almighty One, please tell us what you intend to do, if we are qualified to hear it. Usually one accomplishes his purposes by taking help from others. Isn't it the truth? We all, as the famous song goes, need a little help from our friends. Purport: even an envious demon will not refuse the help of a brahmana's potency to gain his ends. So it's very interesting, although just a short verse and short purport. But when I read this purport, I was like, oh, that's interesting that it took this verse from the perspective of what Vrikasura, the demon, is thinking, that he's going to get some assistance from this young Brahmana boy. Whereas when I read the verse, I saw it more that the Brahmana was interested. And by the way, the Brahmana, in case we don't know, if you haven't been keeping up, this Brahmana is an incarnation manifestation of Krishna, who specifically come to assist his dear, dear, dear devotee, Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu, Lord Shiva. So when I read this, Almighty One, so this is the Brahmana boy speaking, Krishna speaking, please tell us what you intend to do. If we're qualified to hear it, Krishna exhibiting like such humility and accepting that Vrikasura is older than him and he's just a young boy. Usually one accomplishes his purpose by taking help from others. So when I first read it, it sounded like the Brahmin boy was eager to understand what he was going to do, so that he could be advantaged by hearing what he was doing. But after reading the purport, which is why we have these purports, then we understand that actually he's going to be willing to offer help if he can. And of course, Vrikasura is thinking, oh, and I'll be happy to take whatever help I can get. Brahmanas are known to have what is called Brahman Tejas, which is that they have special potency because of their purity. As we understand that the principle of purity is the force. So, like this, then Brikasura is eager to get that advantage. So, in the interest of time, I am just going to read now the rest of the translations through. Shukadev Goswami said, thus questioned by the personality of Godhead in language that poured down upon him like sweet nectar, Vrika felt relieved of his fatigue. He described to the Lord everything he had done. So once again, just highlighting how every verse is filled with so much nectar that we could literally just stop here and discuss this. And I was thinking how important it is, and as Bhagavad Gita explains, that we're really conscious and conscientious of how we speak, and the way that we speak and interact with someone else will have a profound impact on the way that they hear and understand us and the way that they respond and reply. So sometimes in life, we may not be getting the responses that we had hoped for or we had wanted. And often we blame it on the other person. But maybe sometimes, all the time, a few times, it has more to do with us and the way that we're interacting or the way that we're communicating. So we see here that this Brahmin boy who is Krishna, he's communicating in a very humble way, and he's submitting himself before Vrikasura, and Vrikasura is being pleased. In fact, it's described that it poured down upon him like sweet nectar, and therefore, uh, I forget the name of the devotee now. Oh, Krishna. Anyway, who explained? Oh, Prabodhananda Saraswati. He described that, if you and Prabhupada explained this example or gave this example to book distributors, that we should approach people in a humble mood and say, my dear sir, you are so learned, you are so highly advanced, such an erudite scholar, so accomplished in so many ways. And we approach with humility, but also, in a sense, with some flattery or complimenting, showing appreciation. And then he said, so please forget everything you've learned and give me your money. So in this way, we approach them because they give donations so that we can engage it in Krishna service like that. So Vrika was even relieved of his fatigue simply by the way that the Brahmin boy was speaking to him. And then what was the result? The result was that Vrikasura opened his heart and began to reveal openly everything that had happened to him. So this is what happens when we create the proper atmosphere with correct communication and in a mood of respect. Then the heart of the other person becomes open, and they feel that they can trust the situation, and then they feel that they can also reveal their hearts. Didati pratigrinati guyam akyati prichati, of these 6 activities, which are loving exchanges between the devotees, then revealing one's mind and confidence and hearing confidentially are very important. Next verse. The Supreme Lord said, if this is the case, we cannot believe what Shiva says. Shiva is the same Lord of the Pretas and Pishachas, whom Daksha cursed to become like a carnivorous hobgoblin. So it's interesting here. Again, we see that the tactic or the technique that Krishna is imploring here as um, a Brahmana boy is he's taking the side of Rikasura, and he's now describing Shiva as like some cursed person, cursed to become a hobgoblin. And we know from the fourth canto this intense pastime. I'd love to share the whole pastime, but I won't. Of how he was cursed by Daksha, his father-in-law, and also insulting Shiva by saying he's the lord of the pretas and the pishachas. I mean, he's like the lord of the lowest of the low. How can you trust him? We can't believe anything that this personality is saying. Text 33. Oh, best of the demons, if you have any faith in him, because he is the spiritual master of the universe, then without delay, put your hand on your head and just see what happens. So, in one sense, as we read this, we think, Vrikasura, and again, for those who maybe haven't been following along, Vrikasura was performing austerities to get a benediction. He approached Lord Shiva. He began offering chunks of his own flesh into the sacrificial fire. And Lord Shiva appeared and he said that he wanted the benediction that whomever he touched, that they would be destroyed, because he just wanted to be great. He just wanted to be indefeatable, undefeatable. He wanted to be, the king, the ruler, the man. He wanted to be the personality. So in this way, he got the benediction from Lord Shiva, and then the first thing that he tried to do was to touch Lord Shiva. And we've had lots of explanations around this. But here we see that Krishna, as this Brahmin boy, is convincing him that you can't trust Shiva. Anyway, he's such a low-born person, he's been cursed by Daksha, who's a great soul. So if you do believe him, just because, he's understood to be the spiritual master of the universe, then touch your own head and see what happens. Now, in one sense, this seems a bit silly. Like, really? Why would you do that? Because if you believe what Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the universe, said, then you certainly wouldn't touch your own head, thinking that I'm gonna explode. But the way that Krishna has spoken to Vrikasura, it's so charming and so convincing and so innocent and so humble that Rikasora is now thinking, yeah, that's right. This is true. So we see in the next verse, 34, and the words of Lord Shambhu prove untrue if the words of Lord Shambhu prove untrue in any way, O best of the demons, then kill the liar so he may never lie again. So then he gives him this kind of ultimatum or ulterior concept that, once you touch your head and you see that it didn't work, then you'll know that Lord Shiva is not only the king of the Bhutas and someone who's cursed by a great personality, but actually he's a liar. And if he's a liar and he's cheated you, then you should kill him and make sure that he can never do this to anyone else again. And you can imagine this demoniac mentality of Rikasora. He's thinking, yeah, he cheated me, this person. I went to him for a benediction and he said he gave it to me. Then he runs away and he won't let me touch him. Yeah, all of this. And in the mind, this demoniac consciousness, he's thinking, yeah, my God, I should kill Shiva. So in the purport, it is said, Lord Shiva may have the power to revive himself even after being killed, but at least he will be dissuaded from lying again. Very interesting purport here by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And of course, their purports are coming from different acharyas. So I didn't have my books handy, but likely Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sridhar Swami, 10th Canto, also Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. So different commentaries there. So it mentions here Lord Shiva may have the power to revive himself even after being killed, because he's such an exalted and great personality. but at least he will be dissuaded from lying again. So just interesting one to sit with. Okay, and of course, what I took away from this is the principle of being truthful and being honest, and how actually, to cause deceit and deception in the minds of others by telling lies. Of course, there are little white lies, and then there are dark, deceitful lies. But at the same time, honesty is the best policy, as they say. And we see here that there is some recognition that actually, if one is punished for lying, then one might not do it again. Okay, text 35. Shukdev Goswami continued. Thus bewildered by the personality of Godhead's enchanting, artful words, foolish Vrika, without realizing what he was doing, placed his hand on his head. Okay, there it goes. Krishna convinced him, and he did it. Text 36. Instantly, his head shattered as if struck by a lightning bolt, and the demon fell dead. From the sky were heard cries of victory, obeisances, well done. Sadhu, sadhu, jai, jai, shabdo, shabdo. Yeah, so like this. So here we go. Brika is now finito. He is finished. And all the Devatas are praising the glories of this little Brahmana boy. Text 37. The celestial sages, Pitas, and Gandharvas rain down flowers to celebrate the killing of sinful Rikasura. Now, Lord Shiva was out of danger. So we see that this whole incident and whole episode, as are all things, are being witnessed by the Devatas. There is no point at which we are actually completely alone. Of course, Krishna is always in our heart, and he's bearing witness to everything. So even when we think we're getting away with something, Krishna's there. He's the eternal witness. But also, the Devatas are also always witnessing and watching over things. And especially this theme, we see that the demigods and the Pitas and the Gandharvas, they're all watching, and now they're showering flowers from the sky to celebrate the killing of Vrikasura. And Shiva is now out of danger. Text 38 to 39. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then addressed Lord Ganesha, who was out of danger. So this is the Lord speaking. Just see, O Mahadev, my Lord, how this wicked man has been killed by his own sinful reactions. Indeed, what living being can hope for good fortune if he offends exalted saints? What to speak of offending the Lord and spiritual master of the universe? What a beautiful and powerful verse and statement. So very instructive for all of us. And the Lord here speaking that he's been killed by his own sinful reactions. So basically, his karma has come full tilt, come all the way back around, and now he's met destruction by his own undoing. In one sense, Krishna is saying, really doesn't have anything to do with me. This was his destiny anyway, just simply by the karma that he had created. And what was that karma? That he was offending exalted personalities. As we know, Vaishnava aparad is the greatest offense, to commit offenses at the lotus feet of devotees. We were hearing the other day also, this is the mad elephant offense. It's like unleashing a wild elephant in the garden, in your garden. If you have all these kripas growing, these beautiful flowers and plants, the creeper of bhakti is growing, and you unleash a mad elephant in there, then it's just going to translate. So if we're offensive to devotees, offensive to jivas, even to the local man in the supermarket, to someone on the subway like this, but especially exalted personalities, what to speak of offending the Lord and the spiritual master of the universe? So the purport here, we read, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, this statement of Lord Vishnu's implies a mild scolding. Okay, so wow, this is interesting. We didn't really take this away, but again, this is the power and potency of having the purports. My dear possessor of unlimited vision, oh, you of clear intelligence, benedictions should not be given to wicked demons in this way. So here we see Krishna again through the eyes, ears, and heart of such an exalted acharya as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's rephrasing what is being said here so that we can understand the subtleties of Krishna's intention in speaking this way. And he's saying, again, you're such an exalted person. You have unlimited vision, clear intelligence, but benedictions should not be given to wicked demons in this way. You could have been killed, but you were only concerned about saving this poor soul. So you disregarded what would happen to you as a result. So this is interesting. So Krishna rebukes him for giving the benediction and encourages him not to do this again in the future. While at the same time, he speaks in such a way that he's encouraging because he's recognizing that simply you were just concerned about saving this poor soul. Why? How saving? Because he was hacking off lumps of his own flesh and throwing it into the fire. So, Lord Shiva took pity upon him. Lord Shiva had sympathy for him. And he understood what could be the result or the implications of giving the benediction to such a demoniac person. But what he did it anyway, because he didn't care for himself. He was just concerned about saving this poor soul. But at the same time, Krishna wants him to understand that you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't give these benedictions to such personalities. It will never end well. Thus, Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti points out Lord Narayan's mild rebuke also highlighted Lord Shiva's exceptional compassion. And this reminded me once how a senior devotee once said to me that if we are in a position where we have responsibility to correct, may chastise someone, then it should be done in such a way that after the correction and after the chastisement, they don't feel deflated, but they actually feel elated. They feel uplifted and they feel inspired. This is a real art. And Krishna is teaching us here how to do that. Because when we read through the verse the first time, unlikely most of us thought it was a rebuke at all. But at the same time, we see that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was able to explain to us how Krishna was complimenting and encouraging Lord Shiva. At the same time, he was letting him know that he shouldn't do this. Okay, so now the final verse for today and for this chapter. Lord Hari is the directly manifest absolute truth, the supreme soul, an unlimited ocean of inconceivable energies. Anyone who recites or hears this pastime, oh, that's us. Anyone who recites or hears this pastime, okay, this is great. We've done this together. What are we going to get out of this? Let's see. What is the Shruti Pal, the benediction that's coming, the fruit? This pastime of his saving, Lord Shiva will be freed from all enemies. and the repetition of birth and death. Well, there you go. I mean, it was worth it to read the pages of this Bhagavatam, the scripture, just to get something out of it, although ultimately that's not our goal. The Shruti Pals are often, they're byproducts of reading, and it's often something that's given to encourage someone who might be in a, let's say, a lower frame of devotion, rather than on the level of pure devotional service, which is we simply read the pages of Bhagavatam to glorify the Lord, because that will give the Lord pleasure. So let's read this final purport. Srila Sridhar Swami concludes this chapter with the following statement: Bhakta Sankatam Alokya Kripa Purna Ridambuja Giritram Chitra Vakyatu Mokshayam Asha Keshava. When Lord Keshava saw the danger confronting his devotee, his lotus-like heart became filled with sympathy. Thus, he delivered Lord Shiva from the consequences of his own eloquent words. Beautiful. What a beautiful ending to this chapter. So really puts into perspective the mercy of Lord Shiva and his compassion and sympathy for Rikasura, and the greater, in one sense, compassion, you could say, of the Lord, who manifested himself as this Brahmin boy just to save Lord Shiva, who was in danger from the benediction, the eloquent words, the benedictions that he gave to Vrikasura. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 88th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Shiva Saved from Vrikasura. Haribol. So just quickly, and summary for me, there were many beautiful points that were brought out today, but two things kind of stood out to me as ideas. The first one is that the road to hell is paved with good intention, that sometimes we can perform activities that we think are for betterment, but actually can turn out to be not so. So it's not always so easy to know. And the other thing is that Krishna has our back, and he is willing to take on so many different forms and manifest himself in so many different ways just to help us. And to that end, he has manifested himself as the Paramatma and is present within the heart of each and every one of us. And he is always there trying to guide us, assist us, encourage us, inspire us from within. We just have to be able to hear, and we do that through the mercy and benediction of hearing from the spiritual master and the enlightened devotees around us. Not that I am one of those, but simply repeating the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so I will end there and open up if anyone has any comments, questions, reflections, um, chastisements, as you like.
Thank you, Jai Nitai Prabhu. We see Adipurusha Prabhu is beaming with light of the Bhagavatam, desiring to glorify Krishna. Is it a chastisement, Adipurusha Prabhu?
Yes,
I saw
please.
it in your face.
No, he made it very clear. Krishna's got your back, and we have to be careful that our good intention to assist somebody, because Bhagavatam is instructive what to do, what not to do. And everyone's going to be asking us, come and do this, I want this, why don't you help me this way, that way? And they are appealing, and we are inclined to help them, but if we try to facilitate their material desires, whether it's our children or our spouse or our friends or other people, if we just engage in mundane welfare work, it's misdirected. It's not really going to help them, and it's going to come back and cause us difficulty. It doesn't please Krishna. So we want to be effective with our assistance, and that means we we really help them by giving them access to devotional service and spiritual knowledge. Krishna is so wonderful. He sent Prabhupada to give that to us, and this is the message. Prabhu explained it very clearly. Krishna is going to help us, but better not to do these well-intentioned but ineffective ways of trying to help people. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Adi Purush. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, it's not always so easy to know what is the right thing and the wrong thing. I know it seems like, and I'm anticipating excuse me, a question from Ananda Bihari Prabhu, but yeah, I still have to look after my wife. I have to look after my children. I have to work a job. I have to do all these things. So how is it that I can possibly not do some mundane activity?
Yeah,
But
one
as
can't
we know,
serve two masters. You either serve Krishna or wife and children and employees. So many masters. It's confusing.
it is. Thank you. Yes. So, but and Saurabh, I'll come to you in just 1 minute. But anticipating that question, but we have to see that the activities that we're performing. Your wife is not a mundane master. She is she's a glorious master. She's a devotee of Krishna, and same as Ram. I mean, there aren't ordinary people aren't born into such families. So when we take on such things, we can. I feel strongly that sometimes we can confuse what is being spoken about mundane life that is just purely dedicated to the service of our senses, and an elevated life, a divine life, where we're actually taking care of and serving um, persons who are members of our family, but they're devotees, or even if they're not devotees exactly. And I know Jamuna Jai is a wonderful example of this, looking after her mother so with such devotion. But we have to also remember that sometimes we are, as devotees, just us being in that situation is giving them the opportunity of association, and also, as I remember saying in a previous class and was explained to me, that when someone starts to love us and we are trying to love Krishna, automatically Krishna starts to love them. So that is also another example. So it's not always so easy to discern. Saurabh Prabhu, you have your hand raised enthusiastically, patiently. Yes, please.
Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Thank you so much for your
Hari.
class. I think I wanted to just say that you are amazing, and for me, the way you articulate your classes, I can see how pure your heart is and your desire to help us, and so it's touching my heart. And again, and it's building as I carefully listen when you're speaking over the last couple of classes. And then, of course, I'm watching yesterday all the festivities going on at the Bhakti Center, and you're singing. And when you're singing, you're doing your kirtan, I'm like, whoa, there's something powerful about that individual. And again, the main thing I want to say is what you're able to say, you're able to articulate really well. For me, for anyone, I'm guessing it's extremely important. Like I've grown up over the many years listening to so many pujaris and gurus, like other family members listening. But I'm more of the younger generation. But and then a lot of times it's in the foreign language in an Indian dialect, and it's the lost in translation. And so someone like you and a lot of the speakers. On the morning Bhagavatam class, like it breaks that lost in translation. Now, hey, um, this is something that someone is articulating that I can fully understand. And then, of course, your bhav. Again, all these words I haven't used or it's been subconsciously in me, and your bhav is seen, and so it's touching the heart. And so I thought it was extremely important for me to add that and tell you again sincere love and respect to you, and thank you for the same.
Wow, Saurabh Prabhu, thank you so much for your encouragement. I will accept your kind words of encouragement and thank you gratefully. I can see that you really opened your heart to share that, and I want to gratefully receive that. At the same time, I would like to pass that on to my spiritual master because I'm simply not even a speck of dust at his divine lotus feet. And only by his mercy is there anything possible. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. So, but thank you very much for your encouragement. And your check's in the post. I'll send that out to you now for that endorsement. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And as far as my heart, if I bore my heart right here, it would just eclipse all the bright lights of everyone here with its darkness. But anyway, I'm grateful for your kind words. So thank you, Saurabh Prabhu, and please pray for me that I can become pure in heart and learn to love the devotees and serve my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
You are too humble. You're too humble.
Anyway, I was also thinking you learned a lot from the class because you were speaking such eloquent words. I was waiting for you to give me the chastisement subtly, and so I'm learning that yes, I need to become humble. That is it, and I'm so full of pride. So thank you for administering that medicine so eloquently. Bhima Prabhu, we're
Maybe that's the
waiting.
chastisement you're looking to hear. Let's see.
Sorry, yeah, please give it up. But Bhima has his hand raised, and we always love to hear from Bhima Gosai.
It's nice because at home I'm not. People are not so enthusiastic for hearing from me. I just I just like to very quickly. What do we got? What do we got? Geez, it's 8 o'clock. Maybe after. Are you going to be for the afterglow, Prabhu?
I usually don't because I'm at the Bhakti Center, but because I'm not, if devotees would like, I guess I can stay on and we can glow afterwards also, if that's
Yeah,
beneficial.
yeah. Let's glow. Let's glow. Just very briefly, very briefly. The subject of my question was, Prabhu, please expand on the fact that nothing is mundane. It's only our consciousness that makes things mundane. That this
Hmm.
whole thing that we either have Krishna conscious activities or we have mundane activities is actually a fallacy. So that's what I'd like to pick up in the
Yes.
afterglow.
Okay, very nice point. And I'm not sure how we're doing for time there. It's often a little darshan, a little late. So just to touch on that point, yes, this is very valid and very important. Of course, again, not something that's so easy to discern, but yes, the principle as given in the Bhagavatam in the seed verses that Maya is simply the absence of Krishna. And what does that mean? Because ultimately everything is Krishna's energy. Everything has emanated from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti madhva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Such a beautiful verse, the seed verse of the Bhagavad Gita, extrapolating and highlighting what has been expressed in the seed verse of the Bhagavatam, that ultimately everything has come from Krishna. And then in Bhagavad Gita, it explains the wise who perfectly know this, they engage in my devotional service and they worship me with all of their hearts. Now, the thing is, everything has come from Krishna, and there's a huge topic, but the point is that ultimately everything is Krishna's energy, but it's not exactly that we're going to start offering puja and worship to a chair or to any old rock or to this wall or that wall. Oh, sounds like the Lord is coming. Okay, I'll be quiet. I'll stay for the afterglow. Thank you very much, everyone. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
No.
Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Shami Govindam Hari Purusham Continue your thought so it doesn't echo.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Bhakti Center, please unmute if you can. Thank you.
Hari Purusha, Mahajami, Govinda, Hari Purusha, Mahajami, Govinda, Hari Purusha, Mahajami. Asya Jagale Vyave Devanti Asyam Vivanti Kali Andada
The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the way we maintain service. Bow to the lotus feet of great honor and reverence. By his grace, one across the ocean to the sun, attain the mercy of Krishna. Long we wish to have by Krishna's spirit, emanating the lotus sun. Attachment to the lotus feet is the perfection of all desires. He opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendent knowledge. He is my Lord forever. When ecstatic praying emanates by ending is destroyed. Making scriptures sing this narrative. Our spiritual master Joshua, earthly friend of the poor Lord and Master. O Master, this merciful, give us the shade of the lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the living world. Take shelter of the lotus feet. Shield brother, peace and
Really miss it when I'm not there. Krishna. Okay, this is my first afterglow session, so Ananda Bihari Prabhu, please be gentle with me, guide me through, let me know what I'm supposed to do or not do.
Yeah, the format is open mic.
Open mic.
Yes.
Should I get my guitar? Me and
I
Adi
did-
Parush Prabhu can have a duet.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that. Did Bhima Prabhu glorify Krishna sufficiently?
Well, I think he raised his hand again, and I did want to share something. I can still share
Oh
my
yeah.
screen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let me. Yeah, so this is the seed verse from the Bhagavatam, 2:934. So there are four seed verses. So this one says, "O Brahma." So Krishna is speaking to Lord Brahma here, and it's a whole beautiful pastime. Second canto is so uplifting, inspiring. First time I read, I could barely, I just couldn't wait to get through the second canto. Even the third canto was I found them so difficult. And the fourth canto was like, yes, finally some pastimes. But actually, on the second and third reading of the Bhagavatam, it's just like amazing. So Krishna speaking, "O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness." So if we're consciously not connecting something to Krishna, then that is Maya, that is the illusory energy. Because ultimately everything is connected to Krishna, and therefore Srila Prabhupada, when he used to go on his morning walks, he would always astound the devotees, um, and because he would point to something, and a couple of things come to mind. One is he pointed to some droppings of bird bird droppings under a tree, and he said, what is this?" And the devotees were always like, "Oh my God, what is Prabhupada seeing? How is he seeing the world? What to speak of, how we see the world, but how is Prabhupada seeing? He's looking at bird droppings, and he's must be seeing Krishna, but how do we see Krishna in bird droppings?" And Prabhupada then explained, the devotees tried to offer different things, but they were just like, "We don't know, Prabhupada." And he said, "Just see how easy it is for us to become attached in the material world. Even the birds have become attached to this one same branch. And therefore they come every day and sit on this branch. And that's why you see these droppings." So like this, we see that it's easy to uh, become attached. That wasn't the point. The point was that Srila Prabhupada was seeing everything with divine vision, with Krishna vision, and he was seeing everything in connection to Krishna. I think it was Guru Das Prabhu who was sitting. Guru Das Prabhu, yeah, maybe Shrutakirti Prabhu tells the story of how Guru Das Prabhu was sitting in the back. Anyway, and they were entering Vrindavan, and Gurudas was thinking, Gurudas Prabhu was thinking, now Prabhupada is going to reveal like the intimate pastimes of Krishna. And, we're going to hear the nectar in Vrindavan from Prabhupada. And they're sitting in the car, and as they were entering into the holy Dham, and they were just waiting with bated breath to hear what Prabhupada said. And if I recall correctly, Prabhupada looked over and he saw something, and he said, "Bricks." And they were like, "What, Prabhupada?" He said, "Bricks. We have to make sure we're not being cheated for building the temple with the bricks." The devotees are like, "Bricks? You're talking about bricks?" And Prabhupada was seeing that in this way, um, uh, he saw these bricks connected to Krishna and building the temple, and how we can't misuse Krishna's Lakshmi, and we have to make sure we're conscientious in how we're dealing with it. And another time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he tells the story of how he went to Prabhupada, and he said, "Prabhupada, he was also, I believe, in Vrindavan, and he said, "Prabhupada, I can't do this anymore. I spend all my time, day in, day out, literally counting bricks and bags of cement. When I chant, all I can think about is bricks and cement." And Srila Prabhupada said to him, "You should continue thinking about bricks and cement, because these bricks and cement are not mundane. These bricks and cement are for service of Krishna. And don't worry, at the time of death, Krishna will force his way into your heart and take you directly back to the spiritual world, because you have thought so much about these bricks and cement." So like that, we can see that because Bhima brought this question up, Bhima Prabhu, and I'm just trying to carry on how we can see certain things as mundane, but that's simply the absence of understanding its connectedness to Krishna. One final thing on that point, and then Bhima Prabhu can either retort or chastise or correct. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he expressed, and I just relish this quote so much. He expressed that we will know the advancement of Krishna consciousness when we see Supreme Court justices or Supreme Court judges wearing tilak. And I always think that, yes, this is such a powerful statement that we'll know progress of the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness for many different reasons. One is because we'll see devotees taking very high positions in this normal, quote unquote, normal social structure of the world. Another thing that always struck me is that those devotees won't be afraid to wear tilak or maybe even dress like a devotee, have sikh, whatever it is. Not saying that that has to be done, but this was a point that he made. And the other thing, the third point from this, and there are many, but just these three to express, is that it is highly likely that it will not be a renunciant sannyasi who winds up being a high court judge. It is most likely going to be someone who is quite possibly in the Grihastha ashram, someone who has had to go through years and years of mundane education and association with mundane people, but who has been able to come to a position of such affluence in normal, mundane society and sits in that place. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is deeming this how we measure the advancement of Krishna consciousness. So it is not always so easy to understand what may be or what may not be mundane. And in this situation, then that's the thought that comes to mind. So Bhima Prabhu, we're getting beautiful darshan of Surya Bhagavan and the green fields. Have ye anything to add or subtract?
Have ye anything? That's like a
Have ye?
supreme. Have ye anything to add or subtract? And thank you for adding Prabhu at the end of my name. I was waiting for that. I makes my day.
Mahajan.
It's the only time where the word master has exchanges hands, and I become the master of my home here. Other than as Ananda Bihari said, wife and children become your master, and that's not so wrong. That's not so wrong. We have to. I think the Prabhu, that we have to. I don't know what I've learned experientially, and obviously, in Prabhu, you can expand upon it philosophically, or perhaps with the pastime of Prabhupada, like you said. We don't leapfrog over anything. There's no bypass in spiritual life. You don't go past what's around you, who's in your life, and even your own foibles. You don't go past them to get to Krishna. You go through them. You actually, as far as I can see, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he said, I come home to my family, and what I see is Vaikuntha, his wife and his kids, all engaged in service, but still there's a family, and then there's love. And there's nothing wrong with those who we are attached to by virtue of the responsibility that Krishna has given them to us, and therefore we have a responsibility to serve them. That is not leapfrogging. That is not arching over straight to Krishna's lotus feet. That it's not about all this ecstasy that we're shooting for, but rather a chance to, put our arms around others, to not to be companions, just like the cowherd boys. They're all together. It's a big Sankirtan movement. We're all together in this. And it's not like there are devotees and then there are karmis or somebody who's not so, enwrapped in Krishna consciousness might be something different, but that at all times as you said, just do your duty, and then Krishna will force his way in. And I was reading some poetry or something like that, and I was reminded of the fact that a woman, a young lady, loves the idea of being swept off her feet by the beloved, but of course being swept off her feet, swept away. And so that we can understand that if one is sincerely engaged in service, maybe one isn't doing chanting so nicely, but is doing one's service so nicely. Prabhu, are you saying that Krishna sees past that inattentive chanting that most of the time with devotees who are full-time, that inattention is the fact that they're thinking about their service? And they might not be able to concentrate on the name because something very expedient might be happening in their lives that they have to attend to. Is that not also chanting, Prabhu?
Beautiful. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Just so expertly. You are definitely a kavi. You are definitely a poet, and you're also very eloquent in the way that you phrase things and place them, as well as putting across a very, very valid and important point. So many things came up from this, what you were saying, and just maybe starting at the end with the statement that does Krishna overlook our inattentive chanting as long as we're trying to do our duty and service? And that was the point that was made through the example of Tamal Krishna Marj and Vrindavan. So first, we should be clear that it's not that we're promoting inattentive chanting in any way, shape, or form. Just that the point is that actually the real success is in the endeavor. It's in the trying. It's in the, as it said, the Prabhupada made the comment that the hardest thing that we do every day should be to chant our rounds. It's a wrestling match with the mind, trying to drag us here and there. And actually, today I'm doing an online Japa workshop, and I did one last month. Also, trying to do one each month with devotees and create a little bit of a community for devotees who are interested in hearing about Japa and thinking Japa and trying to improve. So definitely not encouraging that, but at the same time, it is likely that we're not going to be chanting fully attentively. Now, I think it is an overstatement to say that people living in the temple or living inside or fully focused on devotion are only thinking about service, and that's why they're inattentively chanting. I can definitely attest to the fact that that's not true for everyone. But the point being that it is in the trying, it is in our sincere endeavor. The acharyas explained that when we start chanting, if before we start to chant, we just prepare our consciousness with a simple prayer, that prayer being something to the effect, "My dear Lord, please help me to hear and chant your holy name with great care and attention. Please help me to overcome offenses. And please help me to chant in a way that pleases you." And just by this simple prayer, His Holiness Satchidananda Maharaj, I heard this from him first at a Japa retreat, and he explained, and then later I've seen other devotees describe that this takes you immediately to the second level out of three levels of chanting. The first one being aparad, nam aparad. The second one being nam abas, the clearing stage. And the third being shuddhanam, the pure stage of chanting. But simply by expressing a sincere intention before we begin, we are automatically elevated, at least at that moment, to the clearing stage, because we're expressing our sincere intention, our sincere desire, and with that, it means we're going to try to be attentive. So I just wanted to touch on that point because I found it a nice segue to talk about the power and potency of the holy name, and how every day we have to really make it an endeavor to first stay awake. My dear Lord, the amount of times I've fallen asleep trying to chant, and it's just a fight. What to speak of controlling the mind to focus on, as Prabhupada said, just having a conversation between the mouth and the ear, the mouth and the ear. So in this way, an important segue through that. Now, the other points, which are super valid, and family life. And this is really important. So we have a call to responsibility and family life. And I love this point that you made, Bhima Prabhu, that it's not that we, how did you put it? It's not that we, leapfrog over them, that we jump over, those personalities that are around us in our life to go to some transcendental level. I really, really do appreciate the way that you explain that. But actually, we have to go through them. And there's so many, you spoke from life examples, and I know in my own personal life, so many examples. I remember initially wanting to disconnect, or finding myself disconnecting just because I was becoming so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that I lost touch with my mom. And my mother and I were very close, and we would talk almost every day. And then I kind of lost contact with her for about 3 months. And just because I moved into the temple and I was just all consumed, and it wasn't so easy. I had kind of renounced a lot of things, and I wasn't intentionally renouncing her, but just was absorbed. And then finally, when I spoke to her again, she was in tears. She was in tears, and she was saying, "Oh, I spoke to this person, I spoke to that person, and they told me that now you've joined some dangerous cult, and that you'll never speak to me again, and that you'll never, hug me, you won't come and visit me." And she had heard all of this stuff. And first thing that I tried to assure her of, because she said, "And I tried to call you, but whenever I call the number you gave me, they can never put me through to you. And I just feel like, I'm so frightened of losing you." And I realized in that moment, my negligence in this relationship was causing such anguish and distress for her. And actually, it was my negligence was not bringing her closer to Krishna, it was pushing her away from Krishna. So the first thing I had to do was assure her that I had not joined a dangerous cult. And I explained to her that the temple I moved into, we had so few people, capable people at the time when I moved in, that the person that was covering reception was actually from another country, and he hardly spoke any English, and he did reception in the evenings. And so people would call in and he couldn't even understand them. So I said, "So I don't think we're dangerous at this point. So because we can't even man our reception with someone who can speak the local language." So, and she was kind of laughing. And then I just expressed to her that it was my fault and I got completely absorbed. And the irony is that I started trying to make sure that relationship was still well connected. And I could tell you amazing stories of the immense mercy that Krishna allowed for her to receive, simply because, as you were saying, Bhima Prabhu, because I became attentive to not trying to disregard her. And actually, one Prabhupada senior devotee, Prabhupada disciple, he said to me on my first visit back after kind of moving into the temple and becoming a brahmachari, that he said, "You shouldn't hug your mother, you shouldn't eat any food that she cooks, and you shouldn't, stay there for very long." And I thought, God, that's going to kill her. And so I spoke to another devotee, and he said, "No, no, 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 you can't be like that. If you tell your mother she can't hug you, that's going to be the end of that." And of course, she has to cook for you. And so I sent her cookbooks. I sent her two of Korma's cookbooks, and eventually I got her Mother Jamuna's cookbook. And she just went wild. Still have those books. She's passed away now, but I have these books. These books became like Shastra for her. She was so enthusiastic. She went through the books. She highlighted them, made notes. She would cook it. And I taught her how that, how you have to cook because we're cooking for Krishna. And, I have to do the offering. And she got separate plates. She got separate pots. She made such a massive endeavor to, how do you say, serve Krishna through serving me. And that was her access. So, yeah, exactly as you said, we can't jump over, we have to go through. So let's not leave behind those people that Krishna has put around us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jai Nitai Prabhu. I always love when devotees share their testimonies to back up the Shastra.
I testify.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, we can take one more sincere contribution to the yagya. Please go ahead. If you'd
Looks
like.
like Adi Purush Prabhu is glowing like anything. He's
Yeah,
proper in the afterglow.
we have to get his video. Go ahead, Adi Purusha Prabhu.
You hear me okay?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
We lost him. He was glowing too much.
As soon as I saw those bricks, I thought of the quote that you.
Hello? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you, Prabhu.
Okay, one thing about this particular verses is that Krishna was so devious. I mean, he set him up to get killed. Uh, he pretended to be his friend and trying to help him, and actually he did help him because by getting smashed he was being benefited, which is the only way he could benefit at that point. But it's interesting, sometimes, although this is a great point about how I was one point getting along with my own mother, our relationship increased when I came to devotional service. I spoke to her more. The communication was more intelligent and valid. It wasn't just some sentimental sloppy stuff. But the point of being sometimes actually just completely devious and lying to people, you have to be very careful about that. But sometimes that's what Krishna calls us to do. With the intention of giving them the absolute truth, we may not tell them exactly what's true. Anyway, anybody want to say anything about that?
I do. That's just that's just wrong.
Krishna,
That's how we ended up getting into trouble in the first place in this movement. If you can't connect to someone by the basis and the foundation of honesty and transparency, then no amount. Krishna says, "Of gamblers, I am the cheat."
yeah,
And we should not think. I've never seen such a perversion of something Prabhupada said than when Prabhupada said use transcendental trickery. Now, what he was saying is when you hand a book, you say there's some recipes in here, or look at this. This is such and such. And you don't explain to them that their meat eating will cause them to be, a cow in their next life and they too will be slaughtered. That's what transcendental trickery is. Show them all the beauty of Krishna and don't go heavy, as Prabhupada didn't do to his first disciples, who he didn't even tell them the 4 regulative principles until after they took initiation. So that was like transcendental trickery, but not the kind of transcendental trickery that one sees in the history of ISKCON amongst neophyte devotees. And I really want to express that, and I do have a passion behind it, because I used to be a traveling devotee and traveling Sankirtan devotee. And, you just get caught up. You think somehow your enthusiasm overrides transparency, honesty, and authenticity. So a devotee should always be authentic and should not think that somehow I have become the devious Krishna who can say one thing and yet mean another in order to move them along in their devotional service by way of my cleverness. I just disagree with that point that we should think that we should be somewhat like Krishna. This, like the gopis, this particular attribute is reserved for Krishna alone. Anyways, that's how I feel. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. I'd like to quote Madan Gopal Prabhu, who is here in our assembly. He once said that those things aren't meant to be imitated, but they're meant to be assimilated. I think so. Am I quoting you properly, Madan Gopal Prabhu? Or I just butchered what you
Emulated.
said? Emulated, yes, yes. Thank you. The one word from Madan Gopal today. One word. But it's so profound. Jai Nitai Prabhu, back to you. Would you like to conclude?
Yeah, I can do. Of course, Madan Gopal Prabhu was here. I didn't notice all the exalted Vaishnavas that are here. Madan Gopal Prabhu, would you like to please say something on this topic or any topic?
No, I'm always in appreciation when the topic dives deep into the application of chanting. And then chanting is such a key process to our progress. And we want to, and you said it perfectly well, quoting Sachinanda Maharaj, that we want to really jump out of the offensive phase as soon as possible, because it's not that hard. It's not that hard. The only difference is sincerity. I think if we can parse out, we invest our energy in two, I think we invest our energy in two buckets when it comes to spiritual life. One is sincerity and the other is rascaldom. If we can parse out which component of my energy is being invested towards sincerity and which is going to a rascaldom, and then we can starve the rascaldom bucket, I think we'll start making progress toward the offenseless chanting. And Hare Krishna.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. I definitely use that. And it's kind of reminds me of the two dog philosophy, from the Native American Indians. That inside of each of us, there are two dogs, the good dog and the bad dog. So you got two buckets, the rascal bucket and the devotee bucket. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Madan Gopal Prabhu, for that insightfulness. And yeah, I think with that, if everyone is okay, then maybe we can conclude with those wonderful words. And it's been an honor to be here with all of you, and to be present. And yeah, I really do want to acknowledge this community again. I have to confess, somehow when I first came, I'm so used to in-person community and Bhagavatam class and so many things like this. But as time has passed, I see just the steadiness of all the devotees on this forum and group, and I really feel that all of you are contributing and getting so much nourishment from this sangha, and it's very, very valuable and very, very special. So yeah, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, again.
Hare
Your
Krishna.
service.
I'm your servant. Thank you for accepting me, Jai Nitai Prabhu. Thank you. We wish everyone a wonderful and fulfilling Saturday. Come again tomorrow. We need you. You're the lifeline. And, Hare Krishna. Nice seeing your glowing faces. Hare Krishna. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Devaki Priti will recite the mantra. Let's go, Devaki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol.
Haribol.